I'm Charlie Moore. I am Sophie Malrahan's stepfather. I'm 62 years old and I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, and was privileged to experience the integration of schools in Charleston.
Okay. What were your parents' occupations?
My father was a retired Navy. My mother was a civil service employee.
Okay. Describe your childhood home and neighborhood.
I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina on the peninsula, pretty much before the suburbs were established. We grew up near the Citadel, a neighborhood that's now coming back.
Okay. Did you play with kids who lived near you? What do you remember about those playmates?
Those playmates were, of course, close to my age and maybe a little older and younger. The playground was a big part of our lives. We all met at the playground every day, and during the summer played from light to dark. Everyone had to be home when the streetlights came on.
Okay. In the days before TV, DVDs, computers, and cell phones, what did you spend doing when not in school?
Mostly sports. At a younger age, we played Army a good bit and Cowboy and Indian and that sort of thing because really they followed what was popular in television back then, the early days of television. Westerns were very popular for a while. Almost every show in prime time was a Western. And after that, subsequent to that, there were shows that had to do with World War II history, the Army. And so we played that. If you were in charge of the game, you were the American soldier or the cowboy, and if you were the younger kid or the child who wasn't the leader, then you had to be the Indian or you had to be the Japanese or the Germans when we played Army.
Okay. Did you know any black families?
Not at first, no. Not in my youth. Not before high school.
Okay. Was race ever a topic of conversation in your family?
It was. We recognized the unfairness in my family, the unfairness of the situation of segregation in the South, at least in Charleston. But it wasn't something we did anything about. It was kind of accepted. It was just the status quo. It's the way things were. Black people went to the back of the bus. They went to their schools. Most of the black people I saw were domestic workers or laborers.
Okay. And do you know where the black neighborhoods and schools were in your community?
I did know where they were.
Okay. Will you tell where they were?
Generally speaking, there were not transition neighborhoods back then, and black families, and really we didn't have much in the way of Hispanics or any other minority groups. Charleston wasn't big enough to have an Asian community or other communities that were of one ethnicity or another. Ethnicity, pardon me, that's the word, ethnicity. So, you knew where the blacks lived and they knew where you lived, and there wasn't really a lot of crossing back and forth.
Okay. How old were you and what were the circumstances when you entered into a relationship with a black student, coworker, neighbor, etc. when you met on equal footing?
It was 8th or 9th grade when Rivers High School was integrated. I was probably 13 or 14. Our school was the first high school integrated in South Carolina. And we had two really stellar young women integrate our school. They were very intelligent, very personable. They were probably the two best people to integrate the school and tolerate what they had to go through in integrating the school. Millicent Brown and Jacqueline, I can't remember Jacqueline's last name right now. Jacqueline Ford. It was quite quite a big event in Charleston, South Carolina. We had lots of bomb threats at the school. We had to empty the school out sometimes several times a day as the police would come and firemen would